Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome. And John, hello. Okay, you're no longer muted.
I'm no longer muted. This
Excellent.
was set up. This said, I noticed it said Visual Studio office hours. And so I thought I would covertly switch it to writing Visual Studio extensions, and it started the stream.
Oh, no. Did you really say office hours?
It did.
My bad, everybody. Sorry for that. Well, we get a head start today. That's okay.
Woo.
I wasn't there because I was just out getting some coffee, so that's kind of nice.
Wonderful. It's probably coffee weather.
It is. Well, it's kind of nice and sunny here, actually.
Oh, okay.
Not that I notice being indoor now. But.
I'm wearing a sweater. It's freezing California winter right now, probably in the 60s.
Oh.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah, right. That sounds awful.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as you may have noticed out there, John is not James.
I'm not. I'm like 2/3 of a James, maybe on a good day.
So James, he's gonna be out for like around a month or so, like on this particular. And John is stepping in, and I'm very excited for that and for having you here, John. Thank you for doing that.
I'm excited too, and I'm excited about protocol handlers.
Yeah, right. That's today's subject, and I'm very excited for it too. You know, I used to be a web guy, so protocol handlers is like, yeah, I like that sort of stuff. Anything that has to do with web, I like it.
It's one of those things that I've run into several times, and it's a really cool thing. It's great for web, but it's also great for desktop apps. It's a really cool technology, and too few people know about it. Like. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
exactly. So we are gonna. I put in some banner here. We're actually gonna look at 3 different things today. So the subject is protocol handlers, but I'm gonna start doing this going forward. I'm gonna list like what are the concepts that we're looking at, and so I have check this out. So we're looking at protocol handlers. We're looking at parameterized commands and per machine extensions. These are 3 things that we've never talked about on this show before.
Nice.
I don't think we've done parameterized commands. So these are commands that you can pass arguments to. So that's kind of cool, right? So you can execute a command and give it an argument, and it can then use that. So that's kind of nice.
That's very cool.
And per machine extensions. This is kind of an interesting one. By default, an extension in Visual Studio is a per user extension. That means it gets installed into the local app data folder, like under the user account, and it's kind of very flexible because of that. So if you have multiple users using the same Visual Studio, whatever, they can have different per user extensions without polluting each other's space, if you will. Per machine is different. It actually installs into the Visual Studio install directory, and so that requires elevation, right? So the Visual Studio installer, the Vsix installer, which is the Visual Studio extension installer, the Vsix installer will automatically prompt for elevation when you install a per machine extension. So we're going to take a look at that and talk about like some of the differences. There are some other differences, and and that's because when we're dealing with protocol handlers, we have to do a per machine extension. Yeah, exactly.
I saw we have somebody watching actually wrote a protocol handler, so that's pretty cool. You're in the right place, Mr. Geek Gamer.
Oh, that's awesome. So we're going to write a protocol handler too. And that protocol handler is going to be able to open Visual Studio. So let's take a look at this here real quick. What am I doing?
I think, you can go like that.
Yeah, how did you do that?
I switched the layout to and then I'm going to mostly disappear, similar to the way James does, and I'll pop in when it makes sense.
Okay.
All right.
So let's take a look. So this is a website. It's a GitHub. This is actually where the source code is for this today's coding exercise here. And in this, I have a link to a zip file, and it's just a regular link, right? The zip file here is actually hosted on GitHub itself, so it's just a local link to from the README on GitHub to the zip file. And inside the zip file, I have a .NET Visual Studio project. It's not that it does anything interesting, but it's just because we want to sometimes share projects with other people in zip files, right? Have you done this? I can't be the only one that has ever done this. So that's what we're going to take a look at. How can we do that in a way that if I have a link to a zip file, someone that clicks it, it will automatically open Visual Studio. It will download the zip file and expand it into a folder, and it will then open the solution. Boom, right there. What do you think?
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I used to do this. Like I was thinking when you said, "Have you ever done this?" And I used to do this a lot. I was trying to think why I don't as much now, and I think it's more common now to push something up to a repo, right? And then you share the repo. But there's a lot of times where it's like, I don't necessarily want to create a private repo, and I maybe don't want something to be public if I'm just sharing maybe with somebody on my team, or it's a real simple sample project or something. So
yes.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And we actually have protocol handlers already in Visual Studio. So if you go to if you use Visual Studio's GitHub or Git tooling against GitHub, I'm not signed in. Anyway, then there would be a button here that says Open in Visual Studio. And that would actually then use a protocol handler to automatically launch Visual Studio that would then clone the repo. And so that particular protocol handler is built into Visual Studio for cloning, specifically for the GitHub case. But we're going to make our own that we will make do whatever it is that we want to make it do. So to do that, we're going to look at documentation. So the VS SDK samples, I don't know, do we have banners to the samples? It's in the YouTube description below. So if you're on YouTube to watch this, you can see there's a link to it. But otherwise, just search for VS SDK samples, and you're going to end up here on this repo. And it's basically just a bunch of different examples of things we can do as extenders. And one of them is called protocol handler. And I wrote that one 3 years ago. But it's still very, very true. Hopefully, we shall see, because I'm going to code it. And the good thing about a sample is that we can just copy paste. You gotta love that. So let's copy paste. So here's some interesting things. What versions of Visual Studio supports protocol handlers? Well, 2017 update 6. And so we even get like how we can set our range of our extension so that you can't install or anything lower than that. And so we should use that. But it could also be that our extension only supports 2019 for other reasons, and so that's fine. And we can see step by step what we need to do, how to intercept everything. And so let's go ahead and do that. So let's go first ahead and set this in our Vsix manifest. So here I have a project, and it's just a regular Visual Studio project. So it's what it was on that GitHub URL we had before. Where is that? I'm going to have to minimize that thing over there. Here, this is the URL, right? So go to Kristensen/OpenZip project. That's what we're looking at here. And if I go behind the scenes here, we can see what I actually want to do is I want to paste this line. So let's just compare the two. So this is about like what installation target does this extension that we're building here support? By default, it supports like from and including version 16.0, so the very first version of 16, which is Visual Studio 2019, up to version 17, but not including. Okay. The next line, which is the one we want to use instead, I want to say also support all the way up to, but not including 17. That means everything Visual Studio 2019, as high of a version you can get under 2019, under version 16, right? So 16.99999, let's say.
And that syntax is interesting. The square brackets on the left, and then the round parentheses on the right.
Yeah. If I did square brackets, it would be including 17, like this. Now I would include it, but now I'm excluding it. So that's kind of interesting, right? So here I'm saying, okay, this includes 17.0. So 17 doesn't exist yet, but it means 17.0 only. So if 17.1 comes out, right, then this extension would not be compatible with it because it says only up to and including 17.0. So if I want all 17, I would have to say go up to 18 like this. Okay, so an interesting thing here is to notice how 2017 actually has like this weird long number here. That's because the ability to go in and say, I want to support 15.6. It was, I think, the documentation said, right? Update 6, right? In order to do that, we're basically this minor version .6 is not supported. All minor versions up until Visual Studio 2019 was always 0. So it's kind of weird. You have to go and find out here. I wrote a blog post on how to figure out what the different versions are, and we have a full list of them. So if you need to target a specific version in like 2015, 16, or sorry, 2015 or 17, that's all documented. So anyway, let's just keep that, and we nuke the original string. So, oops. All right. So that was that. And then we needed to do some things. What is it that we need to do? Register the protocol. Okay, we need to add a JSON file. What's the name of the JSON file? It could be called content manifest.json. So let's add that. Content manifest.json. And then we have to say that, and then go properties, and we say that this is of a type what? Content manifest. Wow, look at that. What else? Including Vsix false, install root default. Do not copy. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, so now we said that this is a content manifest. And I'm just going to copy paste this directly, and then we'll take a look. So now what is a protocol handler? Let's start there a little bit. And let's go here and let's zoom in, control. Oh yeah, you can do that now. That's really nice. So here's a protocol handler. HTTP something.com, let's say, right? So the protocol here is HTTP. That's the protocol, okay? And we already have a handler for HTTP. It's called the browser. And so we actually have multiple. If you have multiple browsers, you have multiple handlers for the HTTP protocol, and that's registered with Windows, okay? So Windows know what to do. So we're going to make up our own. We're going to do something, and then whatever dot something else, whatever we want here. So we're now going to hook something up whenever a link is clicked that has that protocol. Then we want Windows to redirect that to Visual Studio. We're basically saying Visual Studio is going to handle the something protocol.
Protocols are super interesting. Like you've got HTTP is one. Of course, there's like HTTPS. There's FTP. Yep. I mean, back in the day, there were ones like Gopher and some other ones. And then I know James Montemagno has a My Stream timer, and he actually uses protocol handlers to launch it. So when you hit the Stream Deck button, it pops open the app, and he does that using a protocol handler. So it's a nice way. People do that often in things like Stream Deck and other things. So it's a way to kind of do automation where you'll have a link that launches something else. So I mean, it's over the internet, but it can also be on the same computer or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was just told that I actually did the wrong thing here in the comments. I was using the square instead of the parentheses. Thank you for letting me know. That would have been, what would have happened there? It would just have worked also in 17. So nothing bad would have happened until 17 came out, and it might have crashed Visual Studio 2017 if it in fact wasn't compatible. Okay, let's figure out what protocol we want to use. Let's use VS, something VS. I don't know. I think it makes sense. So what about Vsix? Okay. Then we're gonna do a display name, Visual Studio zip file handler. Guess we have to update this one down here as well. So they're the same. This one we don't have to do anything with, so we're just going to leave that. We go down here and replace this as well. And this needs a display name. What's up with this? There's a lot of repetition here, I feel like. Path. Okay, so this is path to dev and vexy. And now it gets interesting. Then we're going to pass a switch. So we're going to pass a switch just called zip. Okay. So this file, what happens when we install this extension is that it will register a protocol handler with Windows on our behalf. So that's really cool, right? We don't have to go into Windows and do all these things. And it's not Visual Studio itself that does that. It's the Visual Studio installer that's able to register with Windows for us based on what we do here. And so let's see, what does this argument /zip mean? Well, here's the my switch argument here, right? That means that when a link is clicked, dev and vexy will be called with /zip in it. Okay. And then this is the value of, so the URL or whatever itself is the value of the /zip argument. Okay. So this will be the Vsix protocol. And then it also says we have to, please note that in order for this to work, we have to specify that this is for all users. Now, this is the per machine concept. So let's go back to per machine. And under install targets, we can actually just say this Vsix is installed for all users. Just click it like that. And what that will do is, in fact, to say all users equals true right here. Okay, that's all you have to do to make a per machine extension. All right. So a thing about a per machine extension actually is that if you have different instances of Visual Studio, like if you have the regular Visual Studio, and then you have also the experimental instance of Visual Studio, which is what we use when we're building extensions. A per machine extension will install into all of those. Okay, so if you have it won't install into different versions of Visual Studio. So if you have Visual Studio 2017 and 2019 and 2019 preview, let's say, so you have 3 different Visual Studios, it will not install into all of them. It will only install into one of them. Okay, you can select all of them, all the ones that would support your extension, but it limits to whatever you select, if that makes sense. All right, so that should do it. And let's close this down. So let's go in here. There was more we had to do. Okay, so now we have to intercept the URL. So now when we install the extension, Windows will automatically call Visual Studio with the /zip argument and then put the URL in there as the value of that argument. But now we have to, in Visual Studio, actually intercept that just happened. Okay, so we need to listen for, did Visual Studio just open up with that /zip argument and then act on the value that it gets. Okay. So first, we're going to add to our package class, we're going to add a simple attribute right here. So we're basically saying search for zip type of protocol package. In this case, it's open zip project package. Arguments 1 and demand load equals 1. Okay. So here's interesting. Demand load means force this package to load when the zip parameter was used to open Visual Studio. So that's kind of nice. So we don't have to say that, hey, this should be auto-loaded or anything. So that's kind of nice. So now we just say, hey, this package should listen and load when the zip, and of course it will be delivered with a /zip, right? But when this parameter is used. And then I'm just gonna love this old copy paste thing here. It's fantastic. So then we're gonna do a few things. We're gonna grab a service. So let's dot that in. using Microsoft Visual Studio Interop. So we're going to grab an app command line service. Let's just dot this in using Microsoft Visual Studio. And this is not my switch, right? It's zip. And system Windows form. It just basically blasts out the option value. So this should be the URL string itself. Okay. So let's do something. We don't have system Windows forms. That's okay. We don't need it. Let's just do diagnostics. I'm going to do diagnostics debug. Generate this. No. Hey, so why don't you, John, why doesn't it give me system diagnostics? How rude.
Yeah.
Debug dot right. Boom. Here we go.
Huh.
Okay.
Oh, because you were calling debug as a function, not debug class. Interesting.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
There's meaning to the madness. And this one says, don't use int, use var. And I'm, this is again like, yes, I like to use var. So that was my personal settings that came in here. I have that listed in my editor config. So some people are going to be like, no. Well, yes. Yes. Okay. So this is kind of cool. So now when we run through, we should be able to see everything here. So I can just do, I should be able to do debugger attach here. Is attached? Isn't there like debugger launch? Boom. Do I need to do that? I think I need to do that because I'm now going to build, because in order for me to test this, I have to install the extension, right? But then how do I then attach to it and those sort of things? So what I can do is I can manually invoke the experimental instance. So just by building, we automatically deploy to the experimental instance. So the experimental instance of Visual Studio now has our extension installed. So now we just need to run it. So let's do our developer command prompt or PowerShell. So we're going to do dev env exe, and we're going to say root suffix exp for experimental instance /zip, and then we're going to do like some sort of, what was the protocol? Zip, just, it doesn't matter. Something like that. So that should now open dev env exe in the experimental instance and pass in the zip parameter. Okay. And when we reached our debugger launch, it should attach the debugger. I've never done this before. So here goes. Okay. Okay, so far so good. Oh,
got it.
Debugger launch. Okay, options value. Boom. Look at that.
So if you did debug, oh yeah, debug right wouldn't help if you didn't launch the debugger.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a way to see it. We had a question come in about per machine extension versus per user extension. Mm-hmm. So if you have both installed, which is going to win out there?
The one with the highest version.
Oh, okay.
So I'll let you in on a little trick. Here's what I do when I do per machine extensions. So let's explain what the issue is. When you're working in the experimental instance, or when you're writing an extension and you build and it deploys automatically to the experimental instance, that's always a per user deployment, regardless of whether you've said that it's an all user or not. So to make an extension install as an all user extension, you have to actually install it like you were installing an extension, like double click the Vsix or something like that. So what happens now if you consume your own extension, you build it for yourself, right? And it's a per machine extension, but you also want to edit it, you want to update it. Well, you need to make sure that the version you're on is always higher. So you can just go in here and do .1, .2, right? And so every time you make changes, you just look at whatever version you have installed in the per machine extension, and then make sure that you have it higher right here. I use AppVeyor as a build mechanism, and I have a script that automatically ups my version number. So it automatically adds, it controls the third option, the third one right here. So regardless of what I have right here, it always replaces it with something else. So when I write, which is the number of builds on my CI pipeline, right, that AppVeyor has been building for me. So right now it's 1 or 2 or something, because I've just put it out there very recently, like earlier today. But at some point it's going to be like 154 or 125, whatever. So what I do is I always just add this, just add a super high number like this. That means that your local version will always have a very high number, and my CI will never come up to a number like this, right, for my extension. And so my local version that I deploy to the experiments will always have a higher version. I don't have to do this dance every time that I want to edit my extension.
And you're never going to publish that. Like, you'll always publish from CI, right? So it's not going to be a problem. Yeah. No. That's like putting Zoom minus 10,000 in web dev terms.
Yes, on the Z index. So you can see here, OpenZip project is right here, right? Version 103. It doesn't matter what I put in. You can see here, when this builds, it's updating these different, it's incrementing the Vsix version to 103, right? So if I had, that's one of the first things it does. So if in my Vsix manifest, it's at 10.99999, this line right here would just take that and change it into 10.3 in this case. So that's how that works. Okay. So that part works. I'm just going to close down this stuff here. Wow. Isn't it just wonderful when things just work the first time and you have never done it before? It's like one of those rare moments. Okay. So should we keep that? Nah, I don't know. But what do we have to do now? So now the next step is to, now that we have the URL, so the URL is this. Where is it? Here's the URL. Demoproject.zip. Okay, so let's not do that. Let's do the actual. Let's find, where's demoproject.zip right here. Oh, I don't want to download it. Just copy link. So let's add that just so that we can see how it works. Here, and we're going to use a different protocol than HTTPS. We're going to use Vsix. Okay, so that means the URL that's going to be passed in to my package class is the actual URL of where that zip file is, right? My job is now just to replace Vsix with HTTPS or HTTP, whatever, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And I should be able to test it, but just by clicking here in the preview. So, but here's how I want to implement it. Because I could just do it here. I could just write in here, say, okay, go download the zip file and, expand it to a temporary folder or something like that, and then open the SLN file inside of it. Or I could make this a generic command. What if I want this in general such that when I'm inside Visual Studio, I can say, hey, open a project from a zip file, just so that I don't have to manually do the whole zip file thing. So I'm thinking that's the better approach. And for that, I want to use a command. So I'm going to add new file from template here. Just add new item, go to extensibility and do command. And this one is open zip file command. That's going to lay down a bunch of stuff for us here. Whoa. So here's our command class. Let me just close down everything because, as usual, in order to do this, I like to do some cleanup. First of all, I like to put all my commands in a folder called commands, even though there's only one. That's just personal preference. Then we got the vsct file here, and I don't want it to be called that. I always want to call it vs command table. That, again, personal preference. You don't have to do this. Let's take a look at the vsct file. Let's remove all the comments. So here's our button. Here's our command. We got some bitmaps. We're registering our icon with it. I don't want any icons. It put in some icons here. Right. A bunch of icons, like it's a image sprite with 6 different icons, and it registers them. Let's get rid of that. This is like an antiquated kind of thing. You don't want to do this. You want to use image monikers if you want to do custom stuff. So let's just do this. And do we want this to exist somewhere? Like physical, should it be a button you can click somewhere? Maybe. Let's give it a name. Open project from zip file. And then let's give it a loc canonical name. So this is what the name should be. So we're going to dot, and we're going to say file to open zip file. Open from zip file. Okay, there's a question there from ADK. Why do you need the debugger to be launched for debug write to work? Doesn't debug just have to be defined? Yeah, that's right. There was absolutely no reason for it. I didn't actually use this debug.write at all. It was because I didn't really think about it. I said, oh yeah, actually I have to do debug launch. Once I'm in here, once I'm in, I don't have to debug this out. I can just hover the value. And so like the value was given up here, right? So I could just hover over here to see what the value was, and that was fine. I didn't need this. That's absolutely right. Okay. So far, so good. So now let's delete this PNG file that I put in. Okay. And okay, so here we have our commands. I like to clean up because it's just too much. Just too much. So I'm gonna grab these things. I'm gonna put them down here. This is just about deleting things and rearranging things. Okay, so I'm gonna take all this out. Go. Comments need to go. Okay. So command service. What is this complaining about? Oh yeah, this one, of course. So we don't want to do that. What are we doing? So we're initializing async. This is a command. I'm now going to register this command to take to react to whenever it's called with a parameter on it. Okay. So first, let's just identify the command that we have. It's in here. So
can I ask a question here? I'm not sure I followed. Why do you have to pass a parameter to it? Because it's always going to do the same thing.
Oh,
it's always going to unzip, right?
Yes, but the file that it's going to unzip is going to be different every time.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, so I want to be able to point to a zip file. So the parameter that this command is going to take is an absolute path to a .zip file.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
We can either say it's a URL, so this could also do the downloading. Maybe that's what it should do. It should do the whole thing. Yeah, that's probably a better idea. GUID garage project package, something like that. That's just, oh man, I don't like that. Let's just call it a GUID package. This one right now is only used here and up here, like that. And then this long thing is like, what is this? This is GUID OpenZip project. What do I like to do? I like to do I like to say GUID OpenZip project commands? Yeah, why not? I'm just trying to, what am I trying to? I don't know what I'm trying to. These long names that it auto kind of generates is not so good. So now we can say package GUIDs. See, it's a little shorter, easier to read. And our command ID package IDs, open zip file command ID. Okay, so now this particular command, where this GUID and this ID match, will be handled by this. If and only if I register it. So in my class right here, I need to register this particular handler. So it's called open zip file command dot initialize async, and I just pass it in an instance of this. Right, that's exactly what we do right here in our command handler. Okay, so now it's registered. Now it will work. So when this executes, it calls the execute method here, and we're going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to just open. I have another project here. I don't remember always like how to do these things, but if I know I've done it before, I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine. I'll just open that and do what I did there. Take a parameter. This one takes a parameter. Add command. Yeah, that's so funny. Okay. So let's take a look. It does this one. Okay. So this is just for me to look. Now this is going to be kind of interesting. By default, it does not take in parameters is not something that's enabled. Okay. So we have to go into our command and say that this one accepts parameters, allow params like this. So that's one thing we have to do. This makes sense, right? This is easy. This is totally natural. Like when you see it written, it's like, okay, I'll check this out. This is the weirdest thing ever. I'm gonna go into my menu command that I just created. And no, not my menu command, it's my menu command ID. Dot. Where's that description? Menu. Oh, it's because it is older menu command. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna change the type here from menu command to older menu command. And then I can say menu item dot description. Parameter description. Hang on a second. Oh yeah, that's right. Parameter description.
Every time I see that, I pronounce it "ole," and I like,
yeah,
there's like fiesta music going.
Nice. Okay, so this is the weirdest thing ever. So in order for our command to take a parameter, we have to say that the parameter description should have the magic string of an asterisk. This is like just totally bizarre, right? But without it, this won't work. And then we can kind of make it nice. Object, what do you people think? I think it's kind of weird when you only have one thing, you end up with more lines, and then I like to have it like so this is like more of a boat, really. But, I don't know. Whatever.
I have a bizarre trivia question. Do you know what OLE stands for? OLE.
No.
Object linking and embedding. And it was like one of the early, this goes back to early COM stuff. And it also was included. This is part of why you could drop like an Excel file into a Word doc, and it allowed embedding documents and stuff via COM. It is ridiculous. It's funny that it doesn't surprise me that that you need a star and that it acts weirdly, because this goes back like a very long time.
Yeah. And of course, Visual Studio is built on COM.
Yep.
Right. So a lot of the components are still very heavy COM. Okay. So then it does an interesting thing. Again, this is like, if you don't know, you just don't know. When you the handler for executing a command, it gets an event argument right here, right? What's really interesting about this is that that event argument is have the wrong type. I don't know why that is. So if we go in and say if E, let's see, how do we do this nice? Yeah. I'm just going to grab this line. we're gonna cast it to an older menu command event args, because if we do that, then we can see if there's an in value. Like, do we get a value in? This is basically the parameter, right? And we just get that as a string. So that should be our URL that starts with, vsix whack whack and so on. So now we can say, okay, now we have a URL. So what's the first thing we do? We should download it. I'm sure this is a security risk. Let's go for it anyway. So we're gonna say using var client equals new web client. To do web client or HTTP client? I feel like web client is the easiest, but I don't know. What do you think, John? You probably have an opinion.
I always forget. One of them is newer and better. I think web client is easier. I forget.
Yeah, I mean, I think the HTTP client, we can do it asynchronously, but I don't think that's required for what we're doing here. So we're just going to download it. So we need a URL. And what's the file name we need to put it into? So file, right? Okay. So let's go ahead and figure out what's the URL. So URL is var URL is our argument is the args or arg, but we want to replace the protocol from, so it's not vsix. I'm just going to do this. Change that to HTTPS or HTTP, whatever, like that. Then we need a temp file. So we can say path. We need system IO, get temp file name. Okay. Now, the problem with temp file name is that it gives us a random, I think, or TMP file extension. I guess that's okay, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter what the file extension is. For some things, it needs a certain file extension, but we don't have to change the file extension. Okay. On the file, this actually won't work. John, do you know why?
Downloading. Let me see. Is there no, I don't. Is it because it's blocked?
No. This is like, there's no guessing this. And I only know it because I did something recently.
I don't know.
And by recently, I mean
coding. Do you
today.
need to say?
This is so weird. So somewhere in my code, doesn't matter where. Maybe I'll do it, I'll just do it in here. It's because, now what's this about? Is banned in this project? Service point manager, security program. Oh, so this is already established in Visual Studio itself. Okay. So basically, GitHub will not allow any requests that come from an old security TLS protocol, and you have to force your web client to use a new one. So that's how you would do that. But Visual Studio might already have taken care of that for us. So let's just go ahead and do that, because it actually changes that for the entire process. So it's good that we got that warning in here. Okay, so that should download that. So now that it's downloaded into the temp file, we need to explode it into location. Should we ask the user where they want it? Would that be nice of us?
I think so.
Yeah. So for that, we just need a folder name, right? So folder, is it called folder dialog? New folder dialog? No. What is it called? File dialog, right? That's
yeah, maybe it's a file dialog with settings.
No, I don't want a file dialog. I want a folder directory dialog, probably. No. That about? Well, anyway, I need system Windows to do it, so I should add that to references. System Windows Forms is already there. Okay, so let's just try that. System Windows Forms dialog, file dialog, folder browser dialog. Boom.
Oh my gosh. If this is the one, there's one that I don't like because it doesn't allow pasting paths in and stuff like that. I think this is the one.
Yeah.
I mean, it works, but it's very like, you can't like, that's the thing. If you have the path and you want to paste it in, you can't do it.
Mhm. Okay, so I think this is it. And then we just call show dialog, which returns us a result. So if the user has selected a thing, so we can say result. If this should be refactored, obviously, but let's say if result equals okay, then we can get the folder result from the dialog, selected path, dialog selected path. What we need to do is that I think we need to take the name of the zip file. Okay, the name of the zip file. So that would be, if I say path get file name and just give it the argument. But actually, it should get file name without extension. So var folder name. It should now say, so the path was, let's just take a look in the link here. Here, so this would be the file name, demo project.zip. So we say, give me the file name without the extension. So just demo project. I think that should be the name of the folder, right? So then we can just say, so path combine our selected path with our folder name. Like that. So we call it target. Or I do this all the time when sometimes I use directory or sometimes I use folder. And I should just use directory because that's sort of the .NET way.
Do you want to show a default directory? I
don't know if I do.
Okay. For the dialog, you can set a root folder and then have it be like the environment special folders user whatever, and that would default there. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Get what is that? Get
user
environment dot. There's like special folder somewhere, right?
Yeah. It might be special folders or I'm looking to.
Here we go. Admin tool, CD burning. Hey, check this out. I wonder where that is.
Wow.
When is the last time you burned a CD, John? Be honest.
I can't remember.
Yeah. Me neither. I'm sure it was legal.
Yep.
Okay. So now we have target. Okay. So now we have target directory. No, not directory, target file. Oh, hang on. Target directory. So now I can go in and say, so now I have my zip file. That's our temp file. And I have the target directory to explode it into. So now I have to ensure that my target directory exists. And we've used this utility method before. It's in package utility, I think. Ensure output path target directory. So that will just basically create those folders to make sure that we do that for us. Package utility exists in the Visual Studio SDK. So now we can say zip file. And we just need to use using system compression. There we go. So zip file dot extract to directory, our source archive file name and destination directory name. Okay. So this is exciting. What else do we do? So now we have extract. There's no way this is going to work, right? There's too many steps here. It's too mechanical. So now we do that. And then we can then we need to find the SLN file. So how do I find the SLN file? I'll have my directory. So I have to say directory, get files, get me all files. I should say enumerate files. I think that's the So it just returns one at a time instead of looping through everything and then returns a whole chunk. It just does one at a time. So we say, give me all files in my target directory where the search pattern is SLN, and my search option is all directories. Why not, right? Maybe it's not in the root directory. Just search all of them. So solutions. So if, and what is solutions now? It's a it's an enumerable string. So then we can say if solutions.any. So if it was able to find something, then we want to open that solution. Now, how do we open a project or a solution?
There could be more than one solution, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to take the first one.
Okay.
Oh yeah, so I can just say, I can just do first or default. You're right.
Yeah.
Our solution. So if not string is null or empty, right? Solution. Boom. Okay, so what was I saying? It's something profound, I'm sure.
How to open it.
Oh yeah, how do we open a solution? So let's figure out. Let's get the DTE, just because. So that's the DTE is going to help us with all sorts of commands that we're going to call. So let's grab that here. Actually, I think I need the DTE in my package class for later. So I'm just going to grab it over there. Good. So var DTE equals get service async, and we're going to grab the type of DTE, and we're going to ask that as DT2, which is a newer version of DTE. There, and we have to await that. And then let's just move this one down. I'm going to pass this to DTE. It's going to say, well, can I just double say add parameter? I can. Wow. You know that, John? It just got added for us here.
That's I did not know that. That's amazing.
I always try these things because every update to Visual Studio, there's like more of that type of like shorthand stuff. It's fantastic. Okay, so now we got the DTE. I could just put it up here. Let me just put it up here as a, how do I do that? I'll just say DTE equals DT. So I'm just going to keep it as a local variable. And down here, we can say DTE dot, and I say solutions dot open. Is that it? And this is going to complain that I need to be on the main thread. So I need to just add a call. It basically adds this thing that says throw if you're not on the UI thread. Now, the good thing about this is that we are, when we're doing a command handler in Visual Studio, we are always, by definition, on the UI thread. So this is fine. So now, oh dear, we can test if this command executes. Just by, if I just launch the experimental instance, we can go up, and I think up in tools, is that where we added it? I think in, yeah, up in the tools menu will now be a command called open project from zip file. So we can just click it, but we need to pass it in, right, our zip file to download. So let's just, I just hit F5. Let's just launch this. And what? Why can't I build? Why is that down there? Oh, That was because when okay, yeah, never mind. Okay, so what happens now? We're not going to start Visual Studio like we did before from the command line, so that we launched it like this. We're just going to try whether or not we can point to a zip file on disk and then have it automatically exploded into a folder and then opened as a solution. Okay. So let's see how all this works. So tools, open project from zip file. If I click this, nothing should happen, right? Because in our command handler, we check for whether or not we have an in value. So this should simply not ever come in here. Let's try it. This might crash. Yeah, nothing happened. If I put it up here, it should happen. Yeah. See, and then if I hit F10, it just steps over, it just goes straight out. There's nothing else for it to do here. So that's good. So now we have to figure out how do we execute. So first of all, that means that it makes no sense to have a visible command. So we're going to figure out how we make that command visible but still work. And then we can also see how do we actually execute something in Visual Studio with a parameter on it. So I'm going to go to the command. What happened? Open language settings. This is what is this? It has nothing to do with this extension. I'm going to say view. I'll do this instead. View. Command window. Where are you? Well, we're going to go up here then again. What is it with this? Oh, I should say don't. Here. And window. So search doesn't work. This is, I guess, the trouble with being in nightly builds of Visual Studio. Okay, how can I open command window? Oh, Jesus, right up there. Command window. Okay. So we added a command, right? And we called it, if we go to, you can always, if you go to keyboard under tools options, you can always search for things. We said something about zip, right? So file.open from zip file, that's our command. So we can go in here and say file dot open from zip file. That. Now it complains. So now it actually hit and came in. So let's just run this again. So now I think maybe it doesn't work again. Here we go. So the argument here is now string is null or empty. So I need to check for that. If it can't be null or empty. So that's okay. We'll just like see the error. And then I'm going to find the direct path to our zip file. And it is, what did I just do? What was that? That was wrong. Copy full path. Here. Demo project zip. I'm going to hold down shift and then right click. That's going to give me a copy as path option right here. Did you know that, John?
I did. That is
okay.
It's very unknown, but shift right click on a lot of stuff does a lot of cool things.
Yep.
Yep.
So now, oh no, that's not what we should do, right? We should grab that's wrong. We should grab the README file. This is the one we need. This URL. Okay. I hit enter. Boom. Our argument is now, oh, look at that. That looks right. VS zip. And we're going to replace that. So F10. Now our URL is HTTPS. Okay, good. We're downloading this. Legal characters and path. Oh yeah. So look at this.
You have to escape it, right? Yeah.
No, I think it's because it has to be a zip file.
Oh,
no, it doesn't have to be zip file. It has to be escaped.
Yeah, I think so.
It is escaped. It is escaped.
Oh.
What's wrong here? See, is it the user space? What's the? I think the URL has extra quotes.
Yeah. What if you do what do you see when you do that view again? Yeah, what's...
Now this does exist, right? Let's just double check that this URL actually resolves. Yes, it downloads the file. So okay, so that part is good.
Maybe it is the extra quote. Well,
View details. Yeah, show me the details. What? But there is no extra quotes. Oh, hang on. No, there is. You're right.
in the
You're right.
URL.
Yeah, you're right. I need to trim the quotes. You're right. So
It wasn't me. It was Locash. There it is.
Oh, thank you. Am I doing this right or wrong? What's going on here? What is this complaining?
I think you want to do a replace.
Oh, it's for I can't. No, come on, John. It's .NET.
String.replace.
No, I want to trim the ends of it.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well, that only trims the end. There's trim start and trim end.
Well, but trim does both.
Okay. Fair.
Removes all leading and trailing occurrences.
You're right. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
But I don't think you should have a... Well, yeah, I guess that's going to be more efficient. I was going to say, I don't think you should have quotes in the middle of the string.
That's true, but
you shouldn't have any quotes at all. But
yeah, and there should be nice error handling here too, right? And we can clean this up, I guess.
That's in the pro version.
That's in the that's going to cost.
Open from zip enterprise.
Yeah, enterprise edition. So we say file dot open from zip file. So I don't need the quotes, but here I'm going to put in the quotes anyway. Enter. Oh, look at that. So let's just not do that right now. I forgot to set a breakpoint. So that worked. Did you see that? So that came all the way down to...
Here, launch it again. I have to show... This is one of those things. There's probably something I never would have noticed or cared. But my first job, I did desktop apps. My first programming job. And this was in Visual Basic. And this dialogue popped up. And my boss was like, I hate this dialogue. I'm like, why? And so look, like, there's nowhere to paste in a path if you know what it is. Now, this is the right way to do it. But I'm just saying there's no... If you actually have a path, or if you want to type it in, you can't. You must click your way through this. And it's still the same way. This is the same dialogue 1,000 years later. So, and now, if he'd never said that, I wouldn't have cared. But now I have this burden, and now you have this burden. I passed it on to you and everyone watching. Anytime you see this dialogue, you're going to get frustrated now.
This annoys me. Where do I get to like this certain... This is silly. Where is the... I'm just going to make something on the new folder here called...
There you go.
Called what? Can I rename it? Can I just hit F2 in here? Yeah. Demo. And then click OK. So now we come in here, my directory. Oh, we can't do this because it ends with a quote. What does it say? Illegal characters, same thing. So I can't use the argument for it. I need to use my URL for it. Can I rewind? No. Edit. I don't know how this works. Stop. Okay. So we're going to use our URL. So there's no reason for these two. Okay. This should be it. So once this is done, we're going to call this from our package load so that we can make the protocol handler actually hook up to this command. Let's just make sure that it works first. Which I can't foresee why it wouldn't. I don't know. What do you think, John? What are the odds? Anyone wants to take bets? That's what we should do. We should run like a whole bookie kind of thing here where people take bets.
Yeah. You need an extension that does betting. Online betting with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency of your choice. And it keeps running up. You know, every time you do something, it's like you can double or nothing to keep running your code. And you're like, I think it's going to work.
I love it. Okay. Loading project file. Look down here at the status bar.
I should have placed the bet. I actually bet against you. That was a bad choice.
Are you shortening my...
I'm shorting you. That's right.
You're shorting me, not shortening. Right. Boom. That's what they call something that works. This. Okay. So there was just a little bit of housekeeping to do. We should make sure that and not string is null or empty arc. Right. That was the one thing that we need to do. We can stop with that. Okay, and then we have to like hide our command because we don't want this to be visible. So here's how you do that. Command flag. Command well only. Command well. That means it only exists in the command system, but it's not visible anywhere. I don't think I have to go in here and say default invisible, but maybe I do. But I don't think so. I think that's enough. We'll test that in a second. Now let's hook it up so that from the package in here, we call our new command. So for that, I'm going to use the DTE, right, which I just did, right, which I just included right here. So let's grab the DTE, and we're going to use that to call the command with the parameter. So we have our parameter here already. We got the URL. It's right here, option value. Let's call it arc. Just because. That's why. And so we can say DTE dot commands dot item. Okay, what did we call our command? So our command we called file dot open. So for that, I probably need to go here. Not the dot. Don't do the dot. This is ignored. So we're not going to use that in here.
Why is that? What is that dot at the beginning for?
Oh, yeah. We talked about this in some of the earlier episodes. It's basically such that if we didn't put that dot there, and then we can see what the command would look like. It would look like something completely different. Instead of being this file dot, it would be something more like this. It would have the name of the package, and then it would say something about like main menu, blah, 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 and then dot file dot. So it's to basically eliminate everything that comes before that dot.
Okay.
Yeah. Another weird thing, right? Now we got our command. Then we can ask if command is not null and command is available. You know, sometimes you can disable things. This is just playing it safe. Then we can take the command, and we can say dt execute command, and we can say command.name, and the command arguments, they are arc. So this should technically, potentially, maybe with a little bit of luck, work. So now this one is going to say, hey, you need to make us, assume that it's present before. So this is basically a fancy null check that the Visual Studio SDK gives us, so that we at design time will catch any issues there. Okay, so now I have to call this again. So I'm going to build to deploy it into the experimental instance. And then we can call this again. And I think I should probably grab the right URL, right? Where is the URL? Not that one. In here. There it is. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, this is it. Now we're tying it all together. We're tying together the protocol handler and the command. Okay. I guess what we just need is we need a debugger. I want to see it happen. Or should we just let it go and see if it works? Let's just see if it works. Enter. Okay, here we go. Hold your breath, everybody. Oh, I think Steffi has a great idea here. I don't know if great is the right word. Look at this. Okay, so let's just create a new, on the desktop here, we create a new folder. Let's just call it a new folder. No, let's call it demo 2. And boom. It's now all together, except for we have one last thing to test. And that is that the link actually works. So let's close this down. What we're going to do now is that we are going to actually install the extension. So where's the manifest file here? So I'm just going to, okay, let's just build this. And then I guess we just did, but let's go and just double click it. Bin debug. Okay, here we go. So here's the elevation, right? It asks for permission because it now needs to install per machine. Normally, you won't have to elevate it. Oh, I need to close Visual Studio. Yeah, just kill Visual Studio and task here. So this is exciting. I don't know. Do I need to restart Visual Studio for a protocol handler to work? I guess we are about to find out. I'd say if this works, then it's I'd say pretty successful episode.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. While you're doing this, you can do in Windows, you can just type protocol handlers or something, or protocol, and it'll list all these protocols. There's a protocol for, like, basically, hit backspace there, choose default app for protocols. It's surprising all the different ones. The calculator has a protocol.
What?
Teams, maps, all this stuff.
Why doesn't it show where it is? Oh, it does right down here. URL, calculator.
Isn't that bizarre?
Wow.
I don't know why. But there's tons. There's call to protocol. There's all these MS ones. So it's, yeah.
Do I have any Visual Studio ones? There would be VS something, I'm guessing. VS TFS, VS LS.
Look at that.
Oh, that's live share and then TFS. And
what's that? VS zip. What's that one? Oh, okay. Answer me this, because I'm always confused. The other ones use the Visual Studio Web Protocol Handler Selector.
What about it? This is the GitHub one, I think.
Okay. Because that, if you have multiple Visual Studios installed, that's the one where like picks based on that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you've got yours registered to a specific instance of Visual Studio, which I guess makes sense.
So now, yeah, but see here, so it registered. So, okay, so we should be good to go. I haven't done this before. It's not because it existed already. I literally wrote this extension as I was going through this. Sometimes I prepare in advance, but I didn't do it this time because I was like, oh yeah, of course it'll work. So I guess I'll have to start Visual Studio to get to that. Or I could just go online actually. So did I change the protocol for this?
This is an interesting.
It's still HTTPS.
Okay. I didn't Steffi's asking if Marketplace would like flag this because it's downloading something.
No, it's not downloading something. Oh, the extension itself is?
The extension does, but
no. Oops. So you cannot download into a non-user folder. So Visual Studio runs in the context of your own permissions. So it can't go in and like download into like the C drive or something like that. Only into user space, as it were. Okay, README. Okay, so now if I click this, Okay, click. Step back. What's going on? Nothing? Okay. Well, then let's paste this into the browser. This side is trying to open Microsoft Visual Studio. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Did you see that?
Whoa, it's happened.
It's happening. New folders. Now I have introduced a space in the path. I don't know if that works. That's why I didn't do it before. I wanted to do rename. You know how sometimes you have to quote things if there's a space in a path?
Yep.
Yeah.
%20.
So as you can see, we're able to paste in our new custom protocol. John, I learned something new because I learned that you could just go in and see it right here. That's fantastic.
Well, so here's another crazy thing. Open up, if you can do command line, or you can even do in Explorer. Like if you open up Windows Explorer, you can paste that. So right up there where it says address, paste that, yep, and hit enter.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that's actually, you can put in a path, you can run a command line, all kinds of stuff from there.
Yeah, that's what I always do. I always go in here and do CMD.
Yep.
And that gives me a rooted command window.
Yeah.
So let's commit this. So this is a success, I'd say. And I'm saying it is a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't know if we were going to be able to make it in time, like in an hour and a half or whatever, or if it was even going to work.
So at the beginning, you had a list of stuff that you were going to that you talked about, and you got it all. You got the protocol handlers.
Mm-hmm.
You showed parameterized commands and the parameters used to pass in the path, and then you showed how to do per machine extensions so that it's registered for the specific instance.
Yeah.
Wow. Kind of showing off here, and then here's the code. So we got that linked over too, so people can. Now, this was the project that you're opening, or do you have to push your changes up, right?
I just pushed them up. So
Wow.
if I go look here,
Yeah,
F5, fully function. Now we should see. So now it's building in my app there. So it's going here. So see, my local instance was 1.0.999, and now it's like, no, I don't care. It's .4 because that's the amount of times that my build server has been running this. So once it's done there, which it is in a second, then it will show up here. If I go to v6gallery.com, and we should see.
there it is.
No, it was already here. We want to wait for 104. So hit F5. Let's see here. Oh, it's now publishing. Not done yet. There it is. Hit F5, and here we go. So that's kind of nice. And if I go, oh, look at this. GitHub actually removes that protocol. Oh, that's why I did that. So it's kind of funny. If you see here, it says, this is the VS SDK samples, the one that we kind of ran through to see how we do it. It says to test it out, install this extension, and then click this link. Now, this link is a tiny URL.
Oh, that's why.
Because that tiny URL then redirects to that. So that's how to get around it. So that's what I should do, huh?
Yep.
So I should go where? I should go to tiny URL.
Do that. You can do AKMS. Tiny URL's easier.
Oh, they updated the design. So let's get, what is it that we want to do? We want to have, this should be it. Prolong URL. What tiny URL do we want? Oh, no, I have to pay to be able to.
Yeah.
I'll create free account. I think I have an account, but let's just do this. Where'd it go?
It's gone. You have to pay.
Oh, it already did it. That's why. I just pasted it and already did it.
Yeah.
So if I click here, Visual Studio opens up. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So
wonderful.
I should be able to just replace this. HTTPS, I take it. So we say updated link. and there's no reason to run the CI build, so we're just going to skip CI.
Hmm.
There we go. And then, okay, let's see here. When is it done? And update the browser, and we should see there's a link.
Woo.
Will it not work? Yes. And I always want to say, yes, you can open Visual Studio. I should have something else that I wonder if I can add text here that says, hey, point to the location you want the zip file. I guess that's an issue here, right? I should have a dialogue or something.
Yeah, because I might misunderstand this to say, where's your zip file or something,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That is cool.
Plenty of room for UX enhancements, I'd say. Did we get through all the questions? Let me see here.
Let me think. Well, James is clapping, so that's good.
Oh, James is back. Hello, James.
Yeah.
Okay, so someone thinks it's cool. Thank you, Steffi. What else? Was that it?
Yeah, I think that was it. There were, yeah.
Okay, well, hurry up if you have like. Did we talk about this one? I think this
We
is
did.
Kind of
we
funny
did.
thing. Okay, that was kind of funny. All right. Well.
Well, here.
Oh.
So, let me jump in on this one. There's So James has this my stream timer, and I'll paste the link in the chat. But mystreamtimer.com is a perfect example of doing this. It's a UWP app, and then he also does the protocol handler thing, and so he it exactly links over, and that's how he sets it up. So for instance, here, let me share my screen. I'll just show this real quick because it's a perfect example of that. So share screen.
And the cool thing about UWP is that there's only one app. There's only one instance of a UWP app. So if you already have the app open and you click the protocol handler, it will just pass that to the existing app.
Exactly. So this is what my stream timer looks like. It's a cool like countdown thing that you can use for a countdown if you're using like OBS or which we used to use for these streams. So anyhow, the cool thing here is he shows how to link it up into Stream Deck, and he uses this. And here his protocol handler is my stream timer. So this is an example showing, and he has UWP, and he also shows using it with Mac, and he's got protocol handler set up on Mac as well. So this is a perfect example showing all that stuff. So glad you asked the question.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for today then. I think we got through all the questions. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can come up with out there. Some cool protocol handler concepts for Visual Studio. I just think it's cool that they build that into Visual Studio, and the ability to register custom protocol handlers with Windows, like just add a JSON file and that's it.
It's great because it is a little complicated registering. In Windows, it goes into the registry. It's different on Mac, of course, and it's just like it's a complicated thing to register. And so it's really cool that they just, like you said, they handle it for you. So.
And that's why it has to be a per machine, right? Because you need to touch the registry and stuff like not local user, but local machine probably. And so you need elevation to do that.
Cool. All right.
Well, see you next time. What do we have next time? Next time, let me just talk about that because what am I doing next time? I
don't know. I'm bringing it up.
Next Friday, we're doing we're taking an extension from 2013, I think it was, and basically making it work in 2019. And it has to do with how we create language support in Visual Studio. We have talked about how to use the classifiers in the editor APIs to colorize random things in the editor. And we're taking an existing language, JavaScript, and we're going to add some color to some special strings and whatnot.
Wow.
So I think that's going to be super interesting. People have been asking for how to do that type of stuff in the editor for languages. So you definitely don't want to miss that. yeah, so I hope to see you then. And until then, have a great weekend.
All right.
And
Thanks,
you too,
everyone.
John. You're going to be there next Friday too, right?
I will be. I get to be here for the whole next month. So I'm quite excited about that. And if I play my cards right, I'm going to try and get James assigned to some like task force or some executive summary meeting or whatever every Friday so that I can stay on longer.
Oh,
we'll see how that goes.
That'll be cool. Good luck with that.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.